Simplified Chaos, Episode 39.
Life is beautiful and full of chaos.
And it can get slightly out of hand if that shit's not tamed.
We're here to share how to simplify the little things to help you lead a more intentional life.
This is Simplified Chaos.
Hey, wonderful friends. Welcome to another episode of Simplified Chaos, or maybe it's your first episode if you're new. I am Jillian, one of your hosts, and I'm with my husband and co-host, Nicholas.
What's going on, folks? We've got another fun podcast for you guys today. This one is going to be very interesting. Jilly, what are we talking about?
Today's topic is all about podcasts that are bringing us value. So,
Ooh.
we are doing a podcast.
We do a podcast.
We also consume podcasts because we dig them.
Love alternative media.
Yes, and it's a form of kind of like informal education.
Yeah.
I dig it.
I do too. But before we dive into that, as always, we're going to show a little gratitude. Jilly, what are you grateful for this fine day?
Oh, you sound like a cheesy
I know, that's what I was going for.
game show host.
Jillian, what are you grateful for?
What's behind door number 1? Leslie, show her what she's won. Sorry, I'll just think of Price is Right.
I know.
I am grateful for Girls' Weekend.
Yeah, you do have a girls' weekend coming up.
So this weekend, I'm going away for a bachelorette party.
It'll be last weekend by the time you guys are listening to this.
Yes, that is true. And it's going to be in Deep Creek, Maryland, which is such a chill place to go.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
And it's like 3 of my favorite things that I value in life. It's like human connection, nature, and just chilling.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty pumped to like bond with some chicks, check out some nature and just be and relax.
And I'm looking forward to bonding with Lucille because I will be with her this entire weekend. We're going to go get our oil changed. Well, my oil changed in my car. She's going to experience the lube center, and I'll probably take her out of the car and look at the fish. I don't know if she's seen fish before, so that could be something fun. But yeah, I'm looking forward to having some time with her for the weekend as well.
And I'm grateful that you are okay with Lucille this weekend because I think time together is great.
It's
and
huge.
I think time apart is equally as important. So
Yes.
I'm excited to have a little time apart and refill my cup and really miss you guys like hell.
You're going to miss the crap out of us.
So what are you grateful for?
Window weather.
You mean like when the windows are down?
Yeah, when the windows are down or
Wind-
up
Or up?
or down. Open.
Down or
Open.
well, if they're down in a car, they're up
down
in a
car,
house.
and they're open in the
And
house.
they're
Yeah. Isn't that
yeah.
crazy? Yeah.
Yeah, so just
Never
windows
thought of
open.
that.
Maybe we can just say that.
Open windows. Yes.
You mean in your Baltimore accent? Window.
And well, I don't say window.
My mom
but
does.
I say window.
Window.
I do the O.
Ew.
But no, it's going to be 54 degrees tonight. It was 57 last night, which we didn't have the windows open last night, and I'm kind of kicking myself in the butt for it. But tonight, windows will be open in the house, and it will be glorious. We get to hear the crickets, which I hope you're not hearing with this podcast, and just love listening to it. I mean, I sleep like a baby when the windows are open, even if there's cars or something. Like I remember when I lived in Baltimore City, we'd have the windows open this time of year. We had a train that would go by at least 3 or 4 times a night. Didn't care. It was awesome. I just love the windows and listening to everything outside. So
Agreed.
I am totally grateful for this season of life because we get to have the windows open very often.
Yes, we do.
All right.
Love our seasons in Maryland.
Yes, we do. So Jilly,
Yes.
exciting topic today. We're going to be providing a lot of resources for our audience.
Yeah, so usually we have a resource at the end of every episode, but really this whole episode,
Yes. One
The
giant
resources.
resource.
but yeah, I realize that Nick and I get so much value from listening to podcasts
do.
that have inspired us. They've literally inspired the reason why we're living the way we're living and with more intention and purpose. And they're one of the main reasons why we started this podcast. So
I was like, let's start a podcast. We listened to a lot of them, and all we need to do is figure out how to have a good audio quality, which I think we've got that down. Please let us know if our audio quality sucks, and I'll go back and take a look at it. But I think we've got a pretty good audio.
And even if we don't, like, progress makes progress, and we're at least starting.
Yeah.
Like, we're not going to be perfect, but we're doing it, and it's been really fun. And it's not only I feel like we're bringing other people value because we get some really great feedback, but we are also learning about each other through this process as well.
And just learning about reaching out and branching off. We're just kind of scratching the surface with this podcast. We do have a website in plans, and we want to be able to bring you guys some more content, written content, and heck, maybe even one day we can invest into some video, so we can bring you some video content as well. But we're just scratching the surface here at Simplified Chaos and our lovely Simplified Chaos Studios, aka our bedroom floor. But Jilly, do you want to kind of get started with one or a couple or a category of podcasts that have influenced you and got us to where we're at right now?
I think that would be lovely.
Go for it.
So just to preface before I list some of my go-to podcasts currently, and I know I've gone through a lot right now in this season of life, I'm just going to tell you what are bringing value to me now.
Yes.
But for me, I feel that all of these podcasts that I'm going to list they've given me like ammo just to live a life truly aligned to my values. I feel like they give me the education I need to keep going. And I think education is so powerful. And the more you know, the better you can question. And I think the way we're living...
like an NBC commercial on Saturday morning cartoons.
But I think the way we're living is just, we've been questioning. And I think you have to ask the right questions in order to get the right answers. And all of the podcasts I'm going to list have definitely influenced me in some point or another. And it's not like all of these podcasts are minimalist podcasts. They're on a range of topics, but each one of them has added some kind of value to a component of my life, because I think our lives are so multifaceted that there's so many dimensions and parts of our life that it's not just simple,
Right.
It's simple, but it's not easy. So I'm going to start with, it's probably obvious, the minimalists.
Really?
I mean,
no, I'm just kidding.
I watched their documentary when we did have Netflix.
Awesome. So check that out on Netflix.
Yeah, and then I started listening to their podcast, and it's two dudes just doing their thing, but I like the content, and it's concise and to the point, and it's purposeful, and I still listen to it because I get immense value, and they're constantly changing and growing, and they motivate me every day to keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, no, they're a great podcast. I don't listen to them as often as you do, but when you find a good episode, and this is with a lot of our podcasts, we kind of share. We have our own thing. We have our own unique styles, which we'll kind of share throughout this episode. But if there is an interesting episode that you feel would be beneficial for me, or that you think that I'd be interested in, you're like, hey, check this out. And the same thing with me. If I find something or listen to something and I think that, hey, Jill would really love to listen to this, it's like, yeah, but we both have our own thing.
Yeah, and the thing I like about them is that they not only do they bring on really good guests, but they also do a lot of their podcasts in the beginning were just listening to their audience's questions, which I think is so relatable, because most of the audience's questions, like, I had the same question, so they're answering a lot of topics that I would have wanted them to answer as well. So it's a good mix of just hearing what their listeners want to hear, and then just getting guests that they know that are bringing value to their life, and just educating me more.
Yeah, and I think that brings up a good point, because I do like that format. So if you guys have any questions that you want us to address, or you have any topics you'd like us to cover, we're always open.
For sure.
Definitely send them our way through social media. You can email us. Our email will be in the show notes as well. So definitely, we'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to, answer questions you might have, or provide a different point of view on questions that you have. So
for sure,
bring it.
Yeah. Do you want me to list some more, or do you want to?
So yeah, go ahead and list a couple, because mine are like, I kind of categorize mine. Because I have so many that I listen to. Like, I have a really long commute. So I try to listen as many and jam pack as many as I can. So I kind of have them categorized, but go ahead and listen to another couple and then I'll jump in.
All right, cool. So another podcast I have is the Melissa Ambrosini Show.
Melissa.
And she is the most over the top, positive, vibrant person I've ever heard. And it's almost to the point where you might be like, oh my God, it's so positive. This has to be fake. But when I say that I feel enthusiastic after I listen to her, I do. Like, as much as I am like, oh my God, she's so positive. Like, I don't know if I can stand it, but I always feel better after I listen to her podcast. Not only because of her energy, but because she gets phenomenal guests.
She gets really good guests.
Really good guests on there with great content and
great insights too. I mean,
yes, she asks very good questions, and it's the same questions over and over, but she's just a very good interviewer. So a combination of her over the top positivity, which I dig, and her guests, the education that I've learned from her is just phenomenal.
Yeah, no, I second that. And I felt the same way especially the first time I listened to her. And obviously her audience is probably targeted more towards females than males.
Oh, absolutely.
So it was a very bubbly for me. But once she got into it and interviews, and there's certain people that I really love that she interviewed. And I got a lot out of it, but she does give a great interview.
And another podcast I have is Simple Families. So as soon as I was pregnant, I was like looking for parenting podcasts and kind of like simplicity podcasts at the same time, because I'm all about wanting to be a good parent, a good role model, but I'm all about keeping it simple as well. So I found Danae, who is the host of Simple Families, and I love her content. She has guests, she does solo podcasts, and she keeps it simple and short and concise, and I love that. Another podcast I had was, I kind of put the two together because they both are hosts by moms.
Okay.
So one is Moms Who Rule the World, and the other podcast is called the Modern Mamas Podcast. Both of them are hosted by moms. One is just one mom and the other is two moms. And the reason I love them so much is because they are so relatable and down to earth and authentic that I want to be friends with them. That's how real they keep it. And not only do they both have guests, but they both do solo podcasts as well, and kind of like dig deep about their life, and they're vulnerable and talk about what's working, what's not, or just topics that are happening in the now. And that's why I feel like I could have coffee with them in my house. Like, I want to be friends with them.
Doesn't one of them, they actually have like a meetup where they invite listeners out to meet with them?
Yes.
Or is that another one that I was thinking of?
The Modern Mamas, I'm pretty jealous. They're having a meetup soon. I think it's their first one, and I really want to go, but I think it's in California.
It's in Los Angeles, right?
Yes, and I secretly want to go. And I'm actually going to be on their show very soon, but I secretly want to be friends with them because after listening to them, I'm like, they sound like so like-minded, and I just want to see them in person and connect.
Yeah. That kind of brings up a question too. I'd love to know if our listeners would love to do some kind of a meetup somewhere and just hang out and talk. We don't even have to talk about what we do on the podcast, but just hang out.
Yeah.
And talk to like-minded people.
For sure.
Let us know, please.
Yeah, we've been pondering
that. Hit us up
that
on the social medias or the email.
So I have two more podcasts. Maybe I should just get it all out and then let you go.
Yeah, get it out.
Cool. So the next one I have is Well-Fed Women.
Okay.
So it's funny. Their name used to be Paleo. It's funny. It wasn't that long ago they changed it, but I first started listening to them because I was really heavy in nutrition education and I wanted to know all the things. And then they've slowly progressed from nutrition and paleo to just overall lifestyle. And they've kind of changed where they're not just talking about paleo stuff anymore either, because one of them's had a baby. So they talk from anywhere from nutrition to hormones to pelvic floor to postpartum. So it's really good for women to hear because they talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly,
right,
which I want to hear. And my last one is the Rachel Hollis podcast. I believe it's called the Rise podcast.
Yeah, that's it.
And I know she's blowing up right now.
Yeah, she's a
huge,
rising star in the podcast world.
But I just dig her energy. Her vibe is so positive and inspirational, and I just dig the vibe she pushes out. And she puts out, and she just kind of pushes me to be the best version of myself every day. So all of these podcasts that I'm listening to, I don't listen to all of them every day. Like it's
tough.
Too much. It's way
podcast overload.
Yes, it's too chaotic for me. So, but all of these I listen to whatever I'm feeling that day. Like if I'm feeling I want some inspiration from Rachel, like she's really good to pump me up, and she has some guests that are just throwing out really great quotes, and I like thrive on positive quotes. They get me going. And,
you do love quotes.
Well,
I wonder if, yeah, that's why you do the quote of the day.
That's why I do the quote of the day. But all of these podcasts fill me up in some dimension of my life, and whether it's minimalism or nutrition or health, all of them have to do with overall well-being, whether it's mind, body, soul. I mean, all of them fill me up in a positive way. None of them are critical or are negative in any way. Like they are always adding to my happiness and not subtracting from it. So for me, it's important that I'm constantly being filled up every day by one of these podcasts, because I can easily go backwards, and I don't want to go backwards at all. And it's very easily for that to happen. So the purpose behind listening to all these podcasts is to keep me going on this path and to keep me knowing to go towards the direction that I want. And I'm happier because it's so I don't want to stop, because I feel like if I'm not learning, I'm dying. Yeah. So I'm all about continuing this journey of podcast listening until I find another means to motivate me and fuel me up.
Yeah. So for me, I really switched over to podcast. I can't even remember when I did that, but what I used to listen to in the mornings was sports talk radio, and for here in Baltimore, we talk about the Orioles and the Ravens, and you just get a lot of callers who just want to be on the radio and heard, and I was really getting no value out of it whatsoever. I was actually just getting angry in the morning, and I'm already in the car having a rough commute.
Like, why add to it?
Yeah, why add to the bitterness and anger? Although when I talk about a couple of the podcasts that I listen to, it's probably the same thing, but I'm really getting a lot out of them, which is the reason why I listen to them. So I broke mine down into three kinds of categories. The number one category is career advancement.
Okay.
So I have a couple of podcasts there. The next one is more like political. I'm really into just kind of learning the truth about what's really going on. And I'll kind of explain that in a little bit as well. I don't want to get too deep into politics or anything like that, but there are a couple of podcasts that I really listen to that really have opened my eyes and gets me, and it's part of our whole thing about questioning everything. It's just questioning and questioning and questioning, and why are we doing things the same way? And I'll talk about that in a little bit. And then my third one is kind of mindless entertainment. I need that every now and then, just depending on my drive or whatever. But I have a couple good podcasts for that. So let's start with career. I think the most influential podcast that I've listened to, and it's not really meant to be a podcast, but it's clips from various speeches, from interactions with clients and stuff like that. And it's Gary Vaynerchuk, the Gary V experience. If anybody who's in marketing and you don't know who Gary Vee is, I highly recommend you follow him. He's basically a person who is very motivational. He tells the truth. He's very raw, doesn't care what he says. I mean, if you want to hear F-bombs, you're going to get F-bombs with Gary Vee. I mean, that's just the whole way he talks. But he's very real, and he provides practical advice and really says, listen, I'm successful because this is what I want to do. Like, he is a workaholic, but that's how he thrives. Not everybody needs to be a workaholic. We can all be happy in our own different ways. But I mean, the people who want to be successful and, have that drive, like, he's a guy to follow. And for me as a marketer, he is the king of marketing, and he has just he has a camera on him almost 24 hours a day.
Holy cow.
And he thrives on it. Like, he does, you never see anything in like his personal life.
For now, you never know if that could change, but you're right.
But one of the things that he really influenced me to do was really kind of get on the Facebook marketplace and start selling stuff. We talked a little bit about my side hustle in a previous episode, and that is, finding stuff around our house and selling it on Facebook marketplace. But he even goes out there and goes to flea markets on the weekends, buys stuff, and then flips it on eBay. And like, this is a millionaire who is going out there and doing this on his weekends. Now, he has people who are helping him out, but at the same time, I mean, he's spending that time and showing people who are really, they have an idea, but they don't have the capital to back it up. He's showing them how they can make money just doing a side hustle so that they can support what it is that they really love. So I really love Gary Vee. He's very raw, but he's also very motivational. And I can't thank him enough for just like some of the ideas that he's given me. So he's more of my career podcast person that I listen to. He puts stuff on like keynote speaking that he does. He also does just, consultations with his clients. He puts videos out there on that. It's crazy. He just content all the time. So that's really like career-wise what I'm listening to is really Gary Vee. There's a couple other ones that I listened to, and it was like Marketing Smarts was another one, but that's more along the lines of my field. But really, the podcasts that I find the most value out of are the political podcasts that I'm listening to right now. And I think even you, Jill, have found some value out of some of the episodes that we've listened to. There's been stuff on teaching and the education system that we've found a lot of value out of. But the two main podcasts that I'm listening to, actually, there's probably more than that. But the first one is Tom Woods. It's called The Tom Woods Show. And I love his slogan. It is setting fire to the index card of allowable opinion. So he really, he's a historian, also very good with economics. He's a libertarian leading kind of person. So he's all about liberty and personal freedoms. And I mean, he dissects a lot of different things and really gets me questioning a lot of the things that I was taught in school, a lot of things that were taught as social norm. He's just very good. He has great guests on his podcast. He talks anything from foreign policy to education to economics, and really is about shrinking the size of government. And I know this is getting into politics, but I'm really learning what's going on with like our money, and it's kind of scary. Like there's certain things that we really need to know about that a lot of people are just, they don't know. We have trust in our dollar, but really people need to look into like the Federal Reserve and what's really going on there, and how really they're kind of screwing us. Especially the younger generations. We wonder why things cost so much. You have to look at the Federal Reserve. Anyways, I'm not trying to get political there.
Yeah, you are.
I know. Another guy I listen to is Part of the Problem. And these are a main guy is the comedian, but there's two comedians on this podcast. So it's Dave Smith. He calls himself the most consistent motherfucker, and he actually really is. And he's with Robbie the Fire Bernstein. And it's a funny podcast. Like, they joke about politics, but they also like break down like the absurdity like that the mainstream media, or they call it the corporate media, is like putting out there. So it's really awesome to just hear him take a topic and listen to like an interview and then just break it down and really rationalize it and say, okay, these guys are crazy. Like, just the one-sidedness of everything that's going on. So I really like him. He does great. And then, of course, I'm a big Ron Paul guy, so I listen to his Liberty Report every now and then. But that probably takes up a majority of my podcast listening in the car. And then my third category, mindless entertainment. And I've got two dynamite podcasts for that. The first one, probably a lot of people already listen to, is the Joe Rogan Experience. I cherry pick his and just try to find guests who are really exciting. Like, I like listening to Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's been on there a few times. The Legion of Skanks, which is part of what Dave Smith is on, has been a funny one. But he has some they're just raunchy comedians. Like, they're the last true comedians out there.
Just don't hear the word skank that
exactly. Often. But he has a lot of great guests on there. But I cherry pick that. Like, I really just try to find people who are very interesting that I want to learn more about, or certain topics. The other one is called The Rewatchables.
Oh, yeah, you told me about
this is a fantastic podcast where they just take movies that are rewatchable. They have certain categories, like they break it down, and it's just really funny. Like, it's a well done podcast. Bill Simmons, who used to be with ESPN, is kind of the host of that, and they just do a great job. It's funny. It cracks me up. And it really kind of takes me back to like some really classic movies that I could watch over and over again.
Like Top Gun?
Top Gun.
Your favorite?
That episode of The Rewatchables was by far the best. And not because I love that movie, but it was just funny and on point.
Did you go from 6 to midnight?
Well, watching the movie I do, but not... the Rewatchable podcast was great there. So yeah, I mean, that's really what I'm listening to. Like I said, I think really the ones that I'm finding the most value out of are the political ones, where are really making me just question everything. And the work ones, with Gary Vee, the career advice.
And I'm glad we listened to such different podcasts because I enjoy learning from you about topics that they don't intrigue me naturally. Like I'm not drawn to them.
Yeah.
But when you talk about it and it comes from you
yeah.
and I can hear the passion, it's like I become involved in it because the topics you talk about, they're just mind-blowing and they affect me. So it's just really cool. I like that we both are passionate about podcasts and educating ourselves, but we have different topics we listen to because it always keeps the conversation going about what we listen to. And I just really value podcasts a lot. It's educating you, it's educating me, and then we can share that education with each other.
Yeah.
And
it gives us stuff to talk about on our walks and everything like that. It helps us like challenge each other, question certain things. It's been great just not listening to like music certainly has a place in our lives and listen to them. But it's so much better than like the talk radio that I used to be listening to. Like, I'm getting value out of each and every podcast that I listen to.
And for me, I mean, we both have commutes that are longer than a half an hour. It's such a simple way to educate and motivate yourself to be the best version of you. And all it takes is finding the right podcast that, aligns with your values or what you want to listen to. And I think listening to podcasts and what I'm enthusiastic about has changed the way I teach, because since I am a teacher, if you guys didn't know,
What?
because when I think about teaching, like, we have this curriculum of stuff like this is what you have to teach kids, but when you think about it, like, I don't want anyone to force specific podcasts on me. Like, if someone said I had to listen to this topic of podcast and it didn't intrigue me, I'd be miserable and I wouldn't enjoy it and I wouldn't retain it and it would be a waste of time. So that's kind of been a reflection on how I teach now, where my teaching isn't the curriculum, my teaching is the kids. So my curriculum is the kids. So now I'm like asking them more questions and finding out what interests them, because I know that if I choose topics that I want to learn about, I'm even more invested and connected, and I'm going to retain it and make meaning out of it. So it's like, why aren't we doing that with our kids? Why aren't we finding out what they're interested in and what's intriguing to them and makes them enthusiastic, and then go in that direction? Still teaching the foundational skills necessary, but really going off their direction.
Yeah.
So podcasts have brought a lot of amazing things to our life, for sure.
And what I would do is I would encourage, if you have a podcast you like, it might not be ours, it could be another one, but share it with people. You never know, who could find value out of that, and it doesn't hurt to put something out there and say, hey, listen, I found a lot of value out of this. This is the reason why, and it may speak to people. So, definitely share it, because podcasts are growing and more people are listening to them. Like, I feel like, even though they've been around for about 10 years now.
Wow, has it been that long?
It's been that long, but we're still, like, when you think about it, it's very young that this source of media is, and it's really starting to take over the mainstream media. So, we're still in what we would consider like the early years of podcasting. And so I feel very fortunate that, we're doing something that I feel is special, and, we're going to keep at this. And, hopefully one day, we're getting to reach a lot of people, but, even if we don't, we love reaching the people that we reach out to, and we love hearing your feedback.
For sure. And I encourage anyone out there who's even curious about starting their own podcast, if there's something that's lighting your soul on fire and you're like, oh my God, I need to share this. Like, go for it.
Yeah.
Like, don't even think about the amount of listeners, how you're going to get it out there. Just do it, because I know Nick and I, like, it's hard not to worry about the amount of listeners and the amount of downloads, and it's very minute. Like, we really don't focus on it that much. Like, we used to look at it in the beginning, but now it's like, I don't even fucking care how many listeners we have, how many downloads. This is bringing value to us, and even if we hear from one person, it's like, we're going to keep going. Like, we're going to keep doing this as long as it makes sense for us and as long as it's bringing value to us. And I encourage anyone else out there, if something is speaking to you and you want to share it with the world, podcasting is a great way to share it.
It is. And it's very easy. We have a very easy setup here. It cost us maybe $300 at most to get this thing started, which is not a lot of money. But it's been something that's been filling our cup every week since the beginning of this year. So,
absolutely.
We are, I guess, 39 weeks into this.
Dang.
Since this is episode 39.
It's crazy.
Yeah. It's crazy to think, but we've did it.
Yeah.
It's fun work. It's
work, but it's fun. Yeah. Like, I really enjoy it a lot.
Yeah. So we talked about resources, and I guess that was just kind of our take action right there.
So yeah, our take action is like, if you want to have a meaningful life, just educate yourself.
Yep.
It's that simple. And if podcasts are the way to educate yourself, like it is for us, then just start listening to them.
Find something you like and share it with the world.
Yes. And if there's something you don't like, don't give up. There are so many podcasts out there. It's insane.
Yes.
Find one that speaks to you and listen to it until it doesn't bring you value anymore.
Yeah. And we hope this one is speaking to you. And, we certainly thank you guys for listening.
We are so grateful for your listenership.
Absolutely.
For sure.
But before we go, Jilly, you got a quote of the day for us?
I do.
All right.
The quote of the day is by Nelson Mandela. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world.
Yes, it is.
And podcasts have definitely given us amazing education about a whole range of topics.
Certainly has. And at least, if anything, it gets us thinking. And it gets us challenging and questioning and really trying to seek the truth.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The truth to happiness.
There we go. Anyways, thank you guys so much for listening. We truly, truly, truly appreciate each and every one of you. We love doing this every week, and we look forward to talking to you again next week.
We sure do. See you later, guys.
We want to thank everybody for listening today. Please be sure to subscribe and sign up to receive notifications so you know when the next episode is live. If you like today's episode and know someone who could benefit from the topic we covered, please share it with them. And if you have any suggestions for us or want to chime in on today's topic, you can email us at simplifiedchaospodcast@gmail.com, and that's chaos with a K, or send us a comment on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Thanks again for listening, and we will see you next time.